So there we were. Me and Roger's body, Roger and dead Frank's body, and Lily in Lily's body. Lily was moaning weakly and just lying in dead Frank's arms like a sack of potatoes. Who makes pajamas for kids with cartoon unicorns covered in blood on them? I wondered aloud.
Nobody, you bleeping idiot! She's been stabbed!
Dead Frank said, hurrying with Lily's body over to the Firebird. Oh my God, I yelled after them. Do you think the cultist stabbed her? He laid her body on the hood of the car. She looked like Sleeping Beauty, except not peacefully sleeping. Her face was scrunched up in pain.
She sure didn't stab herself,
Dead Frank said, fumbling around in the driver's side door until the trunk of the car popped up. He ran around back and was throwing stuff over his shoulder. After a while of this, he yelled the S word and then held up his finger as if to say, give me another minute, and rushed back into the dark car wash. When he came out, he had some silver-looking bandage-wrapped stuff in his hands.
Duct tape,
he announced, standing over Lily and slowly peeling the blood-soaked unicorn pajamas off her tummy.
She was all bound up in it, left here to die from the look of it.
There was this big gash in her tummy area right under her ribs, and it was leaking blood faster than dead Frank's neck. Looking at it made me want to hurl, so I looked away and then realized I was holding the very thing that made the wound in her, and that was probably her blood all over it. I stuffed it into one of my belt loops so I wouldn't have to feel it in my hand.
We need to get her to a hospital,
Dead Frank yelled. He had put the duct tape over her wound like a big silver band-aid. He admired his handiwork for a second before declaring,
That's gonna hurt like a bleep when they rip it off,
and then gathered her up in his arms and put her down gently in the back seat of the Firebird. I climbed in the passenger side window while Dead Frank hopped in behind the wheel. What about the demon? I asked him. We both sat there quietly for a moment before Dead Frank muttered another swear under his breath and climbed back out of the car, leaving the door open so I didn't have to go out the window. He pulled Lily out of the back seat and laid her down on the cement in front of the car's headlights. I fetched the milk jug with the holy water in it and handed it to Dead Frank. He looked at me.
Pocket.
Pocket? He pointed to my pants.
Pocket.
Well, yes, that's... Oh! I reached into my pants pocket and found a slip of paper. I unfolded it. It was covered in what looked like gibberish words. Prince's Glorio Sesame Cole is, tis militia Santa Michael Archangel Defend Nose in,
bleep's sake, just give it to me, Brainiac.
Dead Frank held out the milk jug to me and we traded items.
Pour when I nod at you. Get her right in the face. We don't have a ton of the stuff, so use it sparingly, got it?
Not really. He shook his head, spattering blood down on Lily's prone form from his still oozing neck wound, and started reading the nonsense words on the piece of paper. He nodded at me and I tipped the water jug and poured it carefully down on Lily's face, trying to aim for her forehead. It splashed her right in the eyes and she flinched and twitched, moaning. Something inside me thought, too, for flinching, but I didn't know where the thought came from, so I pushed it back into the dark corner of my head where I usually keep thoughts about spiders. This went on for several minutes. Dead Frank read some of the weird words from his sheet of paper, nodded at me, I splashed Lily in the face, and Lily moaned. As it says on the back of shampoo bottles, rinse, repeat. When does this start doing something? I asked after half of the water in the jug was gone. Dead Frank stopped reading and looked at the jug, then Lily, then me.
I don't know, normally in the movies, the demon starts reacting violently, like right off the bat.
I shook the jug of water gently, then held it up to my nose and took a whiff of the contents. I couldn't smell anything. Are we sure this is holy water? Come to think of it, I didn't smell anything at all. Ever. Apparently, sight and sound come with being a ghost, but no sense of smell.
It better bleeping be holy water or Skeeter's going to get another visit from us and he's not going to like it.
Well, how do we tell?
I don't know.
He paused, then clenched his fists and pounded on the air like there was an invisible table in front of him. Bleep! Relax, Lily whispered softly. Dead Frank and I looked down at her to see if she was suddenly awake, but her eyes were still closed.
Oh, shut up,
Dead Frank sighed, giving her a shove with the toe of his shoe. She groaned in response. Can we take her to a hospital now? I asked, trying to add urgency to my question, but it just came out weird in Roger's voice.
No,
came a voice from behind us both. I was so startled I dropped the jug of holy water. Thankfully, it missed Lily's head, barely. Instead, it fell on the wet pavement and splooshed out. I didn't pick it up because I had a feeling the whole exercise thing was a bust. Out of the shadows walked this creepy-looking guy. I've seen creepy guys before. I once got stalked and almost kidnapped by this guy who kind of looked like a rat. And this new creepy guy didn't look like a rat or animal-like at all. In fact, he would probably be totally normal-looking if you passed him on a sunny day, but that night in the dark, in the abandoned gas station, he had this terrifying look on his face, like someone who hadn't slept in days and was about to eat someone. He didn't blink, maybe because if his eyes closed for even half a second, he'd just pass right out.
Get away from her,
he said very calmly.
She needs to die.
Dead Frank stepped forward.
Who the bleep are you?
Creepy guy squinted at Dead Frank and then he cocked his head and looked confused.
I know you. You were at the hotel. I did that to you.
He pulled one of his hands out of his pocket and waggled his finger at Frank's neck.
How are you still alive?
Dead Frank snorted at him like a bull.
You're in way over your head, buddy. This is my sister. Sister?
The creepy guy's eyes twitched. He turned his attention to me.
That's my knife you got there.
My hand reflexively went to the knife in my belt loop. Finders keepers! The man looked down at Lily and finally blinked. His mouth curved up on one side in a half smile, and then his eyes looked back at us without moving his head.
That's funny.
He chuckled in a humorless tone, reaching his hand behind his back and producing a shiny black gun.
Then I guess this is mine.
His eyes flickered down toward Dead Frank.
Since I got this off you are not a corpse when I didn't kill you a couple hours ago.
He angled the gun at me, so I could see straight down the barrel.
Finders keepers.
Wait, I started to say. There was a loud pop like someone setting off a firecracker and everything went black. I thought for a minute that he just shot me and I was dead again, but I felt the ground suddenly underneath me and something heavy on top of me and realized that everything was black because Dead Frank was laying on top of me. He smelled a bit off, like spoiled vegetables and cigarettes.
Ugh,
he grumbled. Dead Frank rolled off of me with a grunt and we both sat up. I could see a dark hole in the back of his shirt. Creepy guy blinked once more and then pointed the gun at Frank's head and pulled the trigger again. Frank only had time to put his hand up. The bullet went through his hand with such force that he ended up slapping himself in the face with the back of it. His head snapped back and I could see his left eye was ruined. He fell back to the ground with a heavy thump and didn't move.
That's more like it.
Creepy guy muttered to himself. Roger? I whispered. Dead Frank didn't respond. I nudged him with my foot. His unruined eye stared up at the night sky blankly. A trickle of black smoke drifted out of the hole where his other eye had been.
How many more rounds have I got?
Creepy guy popped the clip out of the gun and inspected it.
No, sweet.
He shoved the clip back in and then pointed it at me again. Roger's heart was beating. I couldn't feel it, and yet I had this rush of panic inside me like my own heart was racing, even though I didn't actually have a physical heart anymore. Don't kill me, please, I said, holding my hands up in the surrender pose. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't seem to get the action of sobbing going in my chest. My eyes felt dry as mummies. He lowered the gun.
I don't want to kill you. I don't want to kill anyone.
He glanced at dead Frank.
I didn't want to kill him. I had to. She has to. This is all her fault.
He waved the gun at Lily, and for a moment I imagined him unloading the gun into her. It made me want to throw up, even though I couldn't. I shook my head and pleaded with the angels in my mind to stop him. Please, Nathaniel, wherever you are, save Lily Bird. The crazy, creepy man kept on ranting, his voice getting more energetic and angry with each passing syllable. She killed my sister, my beautiful, gifted, good sister. She loved kids. She couldn't have any, but she treated every child she saw as if they were her own. She would have died to protect them. Even this piece of garbage. The irony here is that if this little murdering bleep hadn't murdered my sister up in that house fire, Samantha might have been here to stop someone from doing exactly what I have to do now. Samantha? I felt the tinder of a connection in the back of my brain. I didn't know all of what Lily had been up to since I died, but I knew she didn't start house fires when I was alive. That was me. I did those. Not on purpose, mind you. I just couldn't ever seem to control it. Sometimes other people got hurt. Some even died. My parents, for example. I burned them up by accident. And this one boy at a carnival show. His name was Joseph Clay. I made sure to try to learn and remember the name of every person hurt because of my fire problem. I'd say each of their names to myself at bedtime when I prayed, begging forgiveness for the pain and suffering I'd caused. Please, Lord, forgive me for Bobby and Alex and Jenny B and Jenny L and Oliver and Joseph and Mommy and Daddy and Lisa and Samantha. She was a police officer lady. Remember that creepy rat-like guy I mentioned? The one who tried to kidnap me? Well, Lily and this police lady showed up to stop him, only Lily was injured for some reason and she passed out. The police lady kicked the door to my bedroom in just as the rat guy was coaxing me out the window. She drew her gun on him and told him to freeze, just like they do on television. And then the rat guy said something to me, something I can't recall. All I remember is that suddenly I knew the police lady was there to kill me. It wasn't true, but whatever that rat Fink guy had said made it true in my head. She was going to kill me and Lily, and I had to stop her. So I did. I burned her right up. She didn't even have a chance to scream. It was crazy. My fire has never burned that hot or fast before or since. Samantha Flores? I asked. I had learned her name from my foster parents. They never knew what kind of a monster I was. The creepy man slowly looked at me. His hand with the gun was quaking.
What did you say?
Was your sister Samantha Flores? His expression turned to one of bewilderment.
Did you know her?
I felt like I was about to swallow my tongue. Or Roger's tongue, I guess. I'm the reason she's dead. I trembled. Lily had nothing to do with it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for burning her. And then the tears finally came pouring out of my eyes like little salty waterfalls. My vision got all blurry and I could taste them on my lips as I tried to talk. I didn't mean to burn her. There was this man and he lied to me. He made me do things I didn't want to do.
No.
He snapped.
It was her. It was her.
He flailed his gun hand at Lily like he was trying to throw it at her, but the gun was glued to his hand. That's when something pinkish red and glistening suddenly bounded out of the car wash. It looked like someone had shaved and greased up a coyote or something. There was no sound, none that I could hear anyway, except the crazy guy yelling and the clacking of this thing's claws on the cement. I barely had a moment to react to the sight of it approaching before it leapt up and latched onto Creepy Guy's wrist with a sound like a bear trap being sprung. I've heard the word chaos before, and it's usually used to describe like a war zone or a big fist fight, but I think the word also fits for when a crazy guy with a gun suddenly gets bit on the arm by a glistening pink shaved coyote thing from out of nowhere. Crazy guy started screaming bloody murder. The gun went off, pocking off the cement right by Lily's head and my legs. Crazy guy flailed his arm, lifting the coyote thing off the ground. The coyote thing snarled and held on tight. Suddenly, blood was being spattered everywhere, and in the midst of all the chaos, dead Frank sat up, rubbed his eyes, smearing eye goop across his face on one side, looked at what was happening, and then looked at me and casually asked,
"What'd I miss? Where the bleep were you?"
He looked around, blinking with his good eye, frowned, then stuck one of his fingers in the hole where his other eye should be.
"Son of a bleep! Shot me in the eye."
"Get your finger out of there, that's so gross." The creepy guy with the shaved coyote latched onto his arm, screamed again, and stumbled backward, punching uselessly at the creature with his free hand. Dead Frank watched the two of them tussling.
"What the hell is going on? What is that thing?"
It dawned on me as he asked the question that I had seen this beast before. Multiple of them, in fact. They had torn that David Clark boy's mom to pieces back at the house Lily and I had gone to. I had seen one of them. It must have been this one, in fact. Exit the house before the police had arrived. "It's a bloodhound," I said, remembering what Lily had called them. "And it's trying to bite this guy's hand off, I think." Dead Frank stood up, groaning as several of his joints popped. A little dribble of pink goo dripped out of his eye hole and got on his hand. He brushed it off on his shirt, then extended the same hand to me to help me up. Yuck. I think Lily made them yesterday. I was trying to make sense of everything I could remember from the previous day's events. Lily had gone into the Clark house looking for me, if I recall, and then she had been dragged out of the kitchen when we tried to escape together. There was a stuffed rabbit that talked, she came back later and acted weird, and then made a pair of these dogs appear out of some sort of blood or red ooze that was in the walls of the house, and the dogs attacked that crazy mom lady for her. Naturally, I didn't say any of that to Dead Frank because what was left of his brain would probably explode from listening. I finally decided to just say the obvious. They protected her.
They? There's more than one?
Well, there was. I don't know what happened to the other one. As if we had the same thought, Dead Frank and I looked around nervously, half expecting another one of those pink, slimy-looking hounds to come racing out of the shadows, mouth open and full of angry teeth, tongue lolling around and spraying drool everywhere. No other doggies showed up. There came a crunch sound from this man's arm, and he howled in pain, letting the gun fall to the ground with a clatter. Dead Frank ran over quickly and snatched it up. Yoink! The creepy guy screamed again, and this time with pain and anger, swiveled around and slapped Dead Frank across the face with the bloodhound's hindquarters. Both men fell over shouting nonsense words. It was quite a scene. Chaos, I tell you. In the midst of it all, I glanced down at Lily and her eyes fluttered open. She looked up at me. I felt my heart leap in my chest, even though it really wasn't doing that. I smiled down at her. Oh my gosh, Lily! Hi, she whispered hoarsely, and then coughed up a bunch of blood into her own face. I fell asleep again? You did, I nodded, but it's going to be okay. Oh, okay. She closed her eyes again, which was probably for the best, because the blood she'd just coughed up was going to get in them, and I think that would probably sting. I'm glad you're here, she whispered. Her head was slowly lolling to the side. I love you. I felt all warm and gushy inside and wanted to cover my face, but I just had to say something first. I couldn't contain it. I love you too! Roger.
For those of you guys that like getting cozy while listening to stories, I want to let you know about Etsy.com/shop/ivorymonocletea. That's my wife's tea shop. She sells hand-blended teas. There's creepypasta-based teas if you want to get one that's a flavor that you like, or there's MrCreepyPasta tea, which happens to be a tea that I drink fairly often. You can also ask for a dabbing sticker. If you ask her for a dabbing sticker, you get a special one that I made for her to use on that jar, and she told me not to use it. So I like telling you guys to go ask her, because then you get a special one, because then she's forced to admit that I made a really good concept, even though it's very silly. Etsy.com/shop/ivorymonocletea. A big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Jakob Fenske, Stephanie Butler, Jordan Humble, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, BrimstonePandemonium, Caltuna, William Wellington, Emma, Brenna Crow, LaQueda Canizales, Smiley the Psychotic, Dante, Kinkade, SimbasBloodyMojo, Mephistopheles, CursepoxPrimarch, Bastion Beefcake, M, Jesus Cornejo, Yarghoul, Clownable, Amber Clark, Jay Kierns, Dakota Lane Whetstone, Himbo Jerry, Crusader Chocobo, Adamarius, Estebean, Nate Cull, Our Minsect Time, Xylobones, Angelus, Seclude, Salty Surprise, Lebeda Galvin, That Creepy Chick, Red Shadow Cat, Turtleman, Carolinian, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Ika Limchalk, Dirty Diver 030, Matt Bach, Voice of Sand, Fikamel, Melted Lake, Tali Sue, William King, Darth Miver, Sashi Suzaku, Coconut 509, Strickett, Freddy Krueger, Lisa Cottrell, Hades Nephew, Acid System, Mog, Kiri the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Nico Kyle, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. To all of you guys, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you for being a huge support to me. Thank you to everybody who's in the description down below, and thank you to everyone who can even support $1 just on Patreon to help keep the content coming.